Almost everything in your pocket, your driveway, and your power grid depends on a short list of about 20 critical minerals. And here is the part nobody talks about. One country refines 19 of those 20. Not mines them, refines them. 3 numbers tell the whole story. 19 of 20 minerals, led by a single refiner. An average share around 70%. And for the materials inside every battery, more than 90. This is the most important monopoly you've never heard of. Start with the headline number. The International Energy Agency tracks 20 minerals it calls critical, the raw materials of modern technology. For 19 of those 20, a single country is the world's dominant refiner. Not 1 or 2 of them. 19. Whatever the mineral, lithium, cobalt, graphite, the rare earths. The same name sits at the very top of the refining list, again and again and again. And it isn't a narrow lead. Average that countries share across all 20 minerals, and it comes to roughly 70% of the world's refining capacity. Think about what that means. Most of the metals and materials that go into your electronics, your car, and your electric grid pass through one country's factories before they become usable at all. 70%, on average, of a single step the entire modern economy quietly depends on. Break it down mineral by mineral, and the pattern is stark. For some, the share is near total. Gallium, used in computer chips, sits around 98%. Graphite, the rare earths, and manganese, about 90. Cobalt, up in the 70s. Lithium, around 65. And even where the share is lowest, nickel, near a third, no other country comes close to matching it. Across the board, refining isn't spread around the world. It's concentrated in one place. Take the most extreme example, gallium, a metal you've probably never heard of, but one that's essential to the chips in your phone, to LED lights, to solar panels, and to military radar. One country refines about 98% of the world's supply. For a material that quietly sits inside almost every advanced electronic device on Earth, that is about as close to a total monopoly as the data ever gets. And these aren't obscure laboratory curiosities. They are the building blocks of ordinary life. The phone in your hand, the electric car in the showroom, the wind turbines and power lines that increasingly run the grid. Every one of them depends on minerals that pass through this single refining step. When one country controls that step, it sits, invisibly, beneath the entire modern economy. Now here is the insight that most people miss entirely. Where a mineral comes out of the ground and where it gets processed into something useful are 2 completely different maps. The mining map is spread across continents. The refining map collapses onto one country. And it's the second map, the refining one, that actually holds the power. Let's look at exactly why. Rare earths are the clearest example. These 17 elements power the magnets inside electric motors, wind turbines, and hard drives. By mining alone, one country produced about 69% of the world's supply in 2024, roughly 270,000 tons out of 390,000. The United States and Myanmar mine most of the rest. 69% already sounds dominant. But mining is only half the picture, and the smaller half. Here's the twist. That 69% is just the mine. Follow rare earths to the next stage, refining them and turning them into the finished magnets that go into motors. And one country's share doesn't stay at 69. It climbs to around 90%. The mining is shared across the world. The processing is not. The real bottleneck was never the mine in the ground. It was always the factory. Zoom in on those magnets specifically, the high-strength rare earth magnets that spin inside almost every electric motor, from car wheels to drones to precision machines. One country makes more than 90% of them. So even when the raw rare earths are dug up somewhere else, the part that actually does the work is built, overwhelmingly, in a single place. Lithium tells the same story, maybe even more vividly. Australia mines more lithium than any other country on Earth, but it barely processes any of it. Watch what happens to Australian lithium ore. The share shipped abroad to one country for refining climbed from about 85% to 98% in just a few years. Australia digs the rock out of the ground. Then it puts almost all of it on a boat to be turned into something useful somewhere else. Add it all up, and today roughly 65% of the world's lithium is refined in one country. up from around 45% just a decade ago. So even as lithium mining spreads out to Australia, Chile, and Argentina, the refining is moving the opposite way. It is concentrating year after year into a single set of factories. It comes down to one simple sentence. You can mine the rock almost anywhere on Earth, in Australia, across South America, and Africa, but only one country reliably turns that rock into the battery-grade chemical that actually goes inside a cell. The mine is everywhere. The refinery is not. And once you follow that lithium downstream into actual batteries, the concentration only tightens. About 80% of the world's battery cells, the finished units that power electric cars, phones, and grid storage, are manufactured in that same country. 4 out of every 5 battery cells on the entire planet come from one place. Go one level deeper into the materials inside each cell, and it gets more extreme still. Look at China's share of each stage of a battery. Refined lithium, around 65%. The cathode, the material that stores the charge, about 85%. And the anode, made largely from graphite, more than 90%. At every single layer of a battery, from raw chemical to finished cell, the same country dominates the chart. One careful distinction here, because precision matters, and this one is easy to get wrong. About 80% of battery cells are made in that country. That is a fact about geography, about where the factories physically stand. A somewhat smaller share, near 70%, are made by that country's companies. That is ownership. They are related numbers, but they are not the same number, and honest data keeps them apart. You might assume the world is busy diversifying away from all this, building new refineries elsewhere, spreading out the risk. The data says the opposite. Of all the new refining capacity added since 2020, around 90% came from a single top supplier, mineral by mineral. The concentration isn't slowly easing, the way everyone hopes. With each passing year, it is quietly getting tighter. You can see it in the trend. Take the top 3 refining nations for these minerals and add up their combined share. In 2020, it was about 82%. By 2024, 86%. In mining, the top 3 rose from 73% to 77%. Both lines point in the same direction, upward. The supply chain isn't becoming more spread out over time. It's becoming less. And here is the part that surprises even the specialists. None of this is really about who has the most minerals buried in the ground. Look at rare earths one more time. One country holds about half the world's known reserves, but it produces nearly 70% of the supply. It is, in effect, outproducing its own share of the geology. The dominance isn't coming from the rocks themselves. It's coming from somewhere else. Because the reserves are actually spread around the world. Rank the countries by rare earth reserves, and you find them in China, yes, but also in Brazil, India, Australia, and beyond. The raw geology is shared across several continents. The reason one country dominates supply was never that it's the only place with the minerals. It's that it built the refineries first. So picture the world's critical mineral refining as 100 factories. About 70 of them, for the average mineral, sit inside a single country's borders. Not 7, not 17, roughly 70 out of 100. The single most important step in turning raw earth into modern technology has quietly collapsed onto one point on the map. And that is exactly why this matters far beyond economics textbooks. A single disruption to that one refining step doesn't stay contained. It ripples outward, fast, into the electric cars waiting to be built, into smartphones and laptops, into wind farms and power grids, into the magnets and specialty metals used in defense. All of them, in the end, wait on the very same refineries. Concentration like this is enormously efficient. Building every refinery in one place is cheaper, faster, and easier to run. But efficiency and fragility are two sides of the same coin. The more the world funnels one critical step into a single location, the more the whole system comes to depend on that one location never being interrupted. So here is the quiet architecture beneath modern life, in 3 numbers. 19 of 20 critical minerals, led by one refiner. An average of about 70% of all global refining. And more than 90% of the materials inside every battery. One step, one country, almost everything. It's the truth hiding in plain sight beneath the global economy. The world digs its minerals out of the ground almost everywhere, but it refines them, overwhelmingly, in one place. And until that changes, nearly everything modern runs through a single, quiet point of failure.